Ted Ligety said, like, Mikaela never started a race that she doesn't think she can win.
Most people are like, oh, self-affirmations. But when I'm standing in the start, I'm like, don't fuck it up. I'm not going to start a race that I'm just going to be limping down the course, that's for sure. Every day, every hour I spend in the car is really a Taylor Swift concert. So it's, yeah. Was so happy to be able to return and race for the end of the season, in particular because we could go to Saalbach and I could experience the slopes.
She's a real hero, a role model, the one that inspires women around the world by just being pure and herself. And by the way, she's the most successful skier on this planet. And yet it feels like always talking to the girl next door in the best possible way, let's say it like that. It's a real pleasure to sit down with Mikaela Shiffrin before a new season is about to start. And for sure with the big highlights, the FIS Alpine Ski World Championships 2025 at Skizirkus Saalbach. Mikaela, thanks for taking your time. It's a pleasure to have you in this podcast.
Yeah, thank you. That was quite an introduction.
Yeah, but it's honest. Like, really, I'm a bit of a fangirl. Not often, but...
Thank you. Oh my gosh. No, that was really... I was like, oh, well, this is going to be a nice one.
Perfect start then.
Yeah.
For the beginning, let's talk about your summer. It looked like you really tried to make the most out of it. There was the Fashion Week in New York, there was the US Open, and a Taylor Swift concert.
Yeah, no, Taylor Swift was last summer.
All right.
I wish it was this summer as well.
She's been in Europe, so it's fine.
Every day, every hour I spend in the car is really a Taylor Swift concert. So it's, yeah.
Oh, really?
It's just
your
a
favorite
lifelong
soundtrack?
thing. I just love listening. And yeah, it's just
so an
something
official
for every
Swiftie?
mood. I'm an official Swiftie. I couldn't necessarily tell you every fact about her life. So I feel like I'm like a healthy Swiftie.
Yeah.
Not
Sounds
that
in a good way.
Not in a good way. Hopefully. I mean, we'll see. Yeah.
No bralettes yet, so.
Yeah. No, I have them at home. Anyway, yeah, I had a really good summer. It was a lot of travel. I had some really cool opportunities, go to the US Open, and yeah, Fashion Week. It was my first Fashion Week, and I actually got to meet a couple designers during Fashion Week, which is pretty rare because they're pretty busy. It's like, yeah, meeting a World Cup athlete during a race. It's like it was pretty incredible. And I love to explore some of these different interests, and yeah, and then also training every day, always finding in a gym and getting time on snow as well.
So it looks like it's a completely different world than what you're used to as a pro athlete, but sounds like something you can enjoy and it's good to distract.
Yeah, I mean, there's actually so much crossover. And when you just take out the athlete and a human, it's like we're interested in different things. Some people are interested in art, music, fashion. It could be anything. It could be other kinds of sports. And for me, I'm just starting to learn that it's okay to be like multifaceted. It's okay to be excited about more than only skiing, as much as skiing is my biggest passion and something I'm excited about too. So yeah, this it's something I've been doing my whole life, but this summer I was able to explore a little bit more, and that's given me so much excitement and joy.
And we have also seen you excited at the Paris Olympic Summer Games,
Yeah.
Supporting other sportswomen from the US team like Simone Biles or Sydney McLaughlin. How can you support each other?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, for me, even just watching them compete is like incredible. And it gives me a perspective that is so beautiful, like a perspective about maybe how people feel when they watch me compete. That's like, this is just incredible to see these kind of competitions where the athletes are on the top of their level and they perform beautifully and gracefully and they experience the emotions, and all those pieces of sport are, I experience it myself, but from a viewer standpoint, it's even different. And that for me to feel that connection was like wonderful. It couldn't have come at a better time in my career.
It's quite fair to say that you achieved it all, but is there still something you can learn from them in some way?
Yeah, I think there's always something to learn, because it's not just it's not like improving in sport is not just linear. You don't just say like, oh, I achieved this and now I'll be good at that forever. Like even in skiing, from season to season, or even from day to day, if the snow conditions change or we change something with my equipment, my skiing can feel the best it's ever felt one day, and then it can feel totally off the next. And so it's constantly this play of how do you keep improving and how do you keep pushing forward without accidentally taking 2 steps back? And then also, we spend all summer long in the gym. So then the first days back on snow in the fall are always a little bit awkward with the timing and everything. So one thing I learned from Sydney this summer, she was doing an interview talking about her victory. And it was like, she just was focusing on running her race and staying in her lane. And in track, it's very obvious. You have your lane, you stay in it. But for me in skiing, that translates to like, be focused on what I'm doing in the moment and not worried about what everyone else is doing. And that's always a good reminder.
Despite all of these amazing activities and all the hard training for sure, how was it to get back home to reconnect with family and friends?
Yeah, family, home, those are the things that end up driving me at the end of the day. Those are the people who allow me to do what I do. They support me through it. And I couldn't do this or be this successful without their support and their love and everything. So now I have kind of almost like multiple homes around the world, and that's been just wonderful to be able to connect during this off period.
As it's about time a new season starts soon, it was time to say goodbye again, leaving home for around 6 months.
Yeah.
How are these kinds of goodbyes for you?
It's tough. I mean, you drive out of the driveway for the last time for basically 6 months, and that's kind of tough. Yeah, it's tough. There's a period of time I always struggle, especially in like end of January, beginning of February, because it's just feels like there's so much more to do. And this period of time, October, November, even December, is still kind of exciting. And we're going to all these different places, and so everything feels pretty new and fresh. But then you get into the sort of dark months of winter, and then I feel like all I want to do is go home. Luckily, this year we have birds of prey, so for the first time, we're really excited to race at home. But I'll be able to stay in my own bed, so that's a nice touch point.
Nice, that's a good one. Also, this video on Instagram, like doing the laundry in the sink, I really totally get it.
And this thing dries stuff in about 15 minutes. How silly is this? Wet wool always reminds me of champagne now, because when you get sprayed with champagne on the podium and it gets on your clothes, sometimes the hats and whatnot, and when you get champagne in anything, it smells so bad. And now people are like, oh, you must love champagne. No, the grossest thing ever. Okay, just like that. Hang them up. They're maybe not clean, but they won't smell bad anymore.
Maybe not clean, but it smells new.
Maybe not clean, but it smells nice.
I will buy that slogan.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah. Well, I didn't realize actually that so many people in the comments were like, oh yeah, I totally do this too, and like talking about their own experiences. But then there's also the people who are like, oh, I would have thought you have a laundry service. I'm like, who do you think I am? What do you think we do? Or not? Yeah. I mean, seriously.
And maybe sometimes it's better to take care of these things by yourself.
Yeah, I would say so. I don't really need people touching my ski socks.
And you're always so honest. I think that's what people love you for.
Thank you. Well, maybe too honest.
No,
we'll see.
I don't think so.
But yeah. No, I just think that everybody needs to understand that nobody actually likes champagne, and sue me if, I don't know, do you like champagne? Are you just like,
no.
You're just like, oh, I really am dying to drink something. I'm going to have champagne
I
over
think
like
no
a good
one
margarita.
really likes it.
Yeah.
Because normally,
it's not good.
No, it's not. I'm doing a lot of motorsports, and for sure there is champagne everywhere. And I'm always trying to hide because
and like a really good champagne, you can sip it. You're like, oh, like very nice, whatever. Like it gets you in the mood, and that's great. I'm just saying it's.
But still, it's a good sign to have a lot of champagne in your life. Means you're quite successful. So
I guess so. Yeah, no, it's true. Yeah, we're connected. Champagne and me, that's a love-hate relationship.
And it's also a super nice way to show your audience that maybe the skiing lifestyle isn't the glamorous one.
Yeah, it's different. It's like, oh, champagne sprays. Wow, that's so cool. And that's like something to aspire to. And you're like, but you're going to be living with the smell of that for the next 4 months because it doesn't go away. And then people don't think about that. And that's a really first world problem.
And it's also that you're giving insights of your private life, like fixing the luggage chaos, like all the time.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
Getting ready after a long flight. When did you decide to be that honest?
I don't know. I started with social media, not really knowing what I was doing. My first Instagram post was like picture of, I don't know, a pair of sunglasses and a drink, like a tea drink, and my piano. And it was just one of those like super high filter. Like I had no idea what I was doing, but I like to share. I like the creativity. I like to explore different viewpoints, and like even just with a camera to see what looks beautiful and what looks raw and real, and how those things kind of connect with a personality. And then when I talk clearly, I don't have much of a filter. So it's not really a decision. It's sometimes a curse.
And what does this connection with your fans mean to you?
Yeah, it's pretty special to be in an age where we can connect with our fans and get like, almost more of a touch point with reality for me, and for them more of a touch point with somebody that you maybe look up to, or maybe they don't, maybe they're haters, whoever it is, but you get this connection because of this media world we exist in. And that's a double-edged sword. It can be really tough to manage, but it's also right now I choose to see it as a beautiful way to connect with people.
In some way, for sure, social media can take a lot of energy, but is the support from your fans something that gives you energy?
Yeah, I think having support in general from fans, from my family, from friends, from my team, that's a key, the building block to be successful, is to have support from people around you. And when you have fan base of whatever 1.4 million people or something like that, then and you feel that support, it's pretty powerful and very uplifting at times. And yeah, it can be energy consuming as well. Yeah. So I'm grateful to have help from my team, from my management team around me, so I can focus when it's time to focus, but we can stay in touch with the fans as well.
But would you say there are sometimes points where the spotlight isn't always a blessing?
Yeah, for sure. When I was young and dreaming about being a ski racer, I was only dreaming about ski racing. I wasn't thinking about the cameras that are there and the people that need your attention and all of the other sides of the sport. And I've grown into a role where I appreciate that for sure. And it's what gives me actually a career. But those things for me, I'm a little bit more of a introverted kind of personality. So those things take energy from me, and I have needed to learn over 13, 14 years how to exist in this world and show my personality and still then be able to go home and shut off and take time for myself and recover, actually.
And you're doing it in such an amazing way. So there are literally no taboos for you, like dropping the topic of female sports women and their periods.
Yeah.
It feels so much more normal since you did that to talk about.
Oh,
so
good.
Thanks for that.
Yeah, no, I love to talk about periods. Anytime, any place. You just call me, we can talk.
Amazing.
Yeah.
I will do that. Thanks so much for that. But are you aware of how much you impress and how big the impact is on other women?
I don't know. I mean, I think it's only when I have conversations like this and you tell me, because otherwise when I'm just doing my thing, like I don't see who is seeing what I do. This is kind of actually interesting. It's also the same at the Olympics. People are like, oh my gosh, did you see how much people were talking about this or that? I'm like, no, I didn't see anything. I'm there. We're not watching the broadcast. So I don't actually know what's going on. And that's kind of the same in everything else that I do. It's like, oh, I'm going to post that, or I'm going to say this, and then I never really see what actually comes from it. So it's in moments like this, I talk with you, or maybe a fan says it on the internet. I'm like, I can't believe you saw that. Like, maybe this did touch some people, and that's pretty cool.
It's really cool. Would you say that is a role you grew into? Like speaking so honest about important topics?
Yeah, I would say so. I think when you start out pretty young, like I was always very aware of everything I didn't know and everything I didn't want to talk about, because I didn't want to make anyone mad. I didn't want to offend people, and also just growing into my own thoughts and opinions. And over that growth period, I've also been more comfortable to talk about it a bit. And I'm still pretty aware there are certain topics where I have to be cognizant of the fact that people have different opinions. And I might think your opinion is wrong, but you're still entitled to have that opinion. So just to walk the balance of saying what's important to me, but trying not to say it as if I'm actually lecturing somebody, because for most cases, I'm not actually the expert on whatever the topic is. Like, I'm not the world's leading expert on periods. However, I do experience them, and I can tell you that they are not very pleasant, or like even voting rights and whatnot. It's things that I want to talk about, but not to show people that I think that I know everything, or that, you know what I mean? It's a fine line.
Again, in a good way. You're
Yeah,
speaking
hopefully.
out. Is it easier speaking about your own opinion since you're that successful, achieved so much? Like that people really want to listen to you?
I mean, I guess I have, because of the success I've had in skiing, I have a bigger platform to speak. So it's more accessible for me to speak out to more people. But I don't know if it's easier. There can be more backlash. There can be more people, like more opinions that tell you when you've done something wrong. There's more people to tell me to, stick to skiing if I go to a fashion show and whatever. And, there's more opinions that come back to me. And those are not always positive. Mostly they are. But when it's negative, then that's pretty challenging to understand, because I'm also somebody who takes every piece of information, like I take it to heart. So if somebody says something about me, I'm not thinking, what's wrong with you? Why did you say that? You're just jealous, whatever. I'm thinking, are they right?
So it gets in your head.
It gets in my head. And that's good and bad. Sometimes I need to let it go. Sometimes it actually helps me understand more about myself and why something is important to me. But it's a process. Being an overthinker is quite a process.
I feel you again. So, as you earlier said, you had to learn how to live in this world, in this surrounding. Is there an advice you would have given or you would have wanted to have earlier when you started in the World Cup?
I mean, I think the advice I would give is that it's important to take your growth in strides. Like, if that was something I did, not on purpose, but just because if I wasn't ready to speak about something, then I didn't. And I think it's important for people to watch and sit and listen first. And especially now, there's so much access to media, and people can say whatever they want to say, whenever they want to say. And I guess my advice is just to, reread your comment before you hit send. Always think about how what you're saying might impact somebody on the other side of the screen. And when you have your own platform and you want to say something, it's incredible and it's beautiful to have something to say and to share that with the world. But to remember, I'm still working on this, but you don't have to do it all right now. Like, take your growth in strides and give yourself the grace of time to learn.
Then let's focus on the sportive aspect for now, as this will be your 14th season in the World Cup. In which way does your summer preparation have changed compared to the early days?
I mean, in some ways it hasn't changed. I spend a lot of time in the gym every day, but it's shifted over years. Some years I focus a little bit more on just like raw strength building. Some years I focus more on cardio. Some years like agility, balance, power. This year was a little bit more focused on strength. After the crash I had last winter, it was really important to build up like this sort of inner proprioceptive muscles of my knee and my ankle, and just build back the strength, because for sure I was lacking at the end of the season. So that's in a pretty good place now. And yeah.
You already won it all, let's say it like that. What is it that still motivates you to put in that much work every day?
I think I'm motivated just because I'm just not done. I don't feel like I'm finished. So that in and of itself is motivating just as much as it was when I was 16 or 17. And I was thinking, there's so much that I want to do. There's so much of myself that I want to give to this sport. And it's kind of the same in a way. So it's really, winning is also a motivation, but there's not a certain number of races that I would win that I would say, oh, now I'm good. Now I'm done. So I also could not win another race, and maybe I'll still ski for 5 more years or whatever. Like I don't know if it's so connected to winning in and of itself.
We really like to hear that. So there can be way more victories than 100, I think.
Oh, well, maybe. Let's just focus on the next few and see where we get.
Fine. So as you already mentioned your injury, the last season has been a super successful one, but also a difficult one. You had to sit out a bit. How do you deal with setbacks like that?
It's challenging to see the thing that you do and what it feels like your only purpose in life at times. It's challenging to see that continue when you can't be part of it. And that's for anybody with an injury. One of the hardest things, aside from being unable to train and unable to, if you're on crutches or whatever, you can't even like make your own dinner. And those kinds of things are really frustrating. Being unable to walk normally, that's very frustrating. But it's mostly like the mental challenge comes in when you see everybody is moving forward and you're sitting there like, oh, that's where I'm supposed to be and I'm so far away. And even for me, my injury it took me out for a good portion of the season, but I was very grateful and lucky to be able to return before the end of the season. And I've been lucky over the course of my career that my injuries, I've had quite a few, but normally they haven't kept me out for an entire season. So that's wonderful. But when I look on like Alex, for instance, it's like I see how frustrating it can be for him, and I've experienced it on some smaller levels, and it is really challenging.
As this would be my next question for sure. Can you give us an update about him? How is he doing at the moment?
He is doing okay. I think these last 12 weeks really have been a very unexpected and very real challenge. Something that, at this period of time, he was supposed to be getting on his skis and preparing for the season. And, this just like completely derailed his path so much. And he's had to come to terms with that on a daily basis and wake up every morning and have to figure out his own way to structure the day that doesn't involve going to training and the structure that you have as an athlete. It's something like we live by the discipline that we need to have to be successful. And then when that's stripped away from you, it's a really, really hard thing to figure out what your identity means beyond that. And he's so positive. His bad days would be like a crisis for everybody else, but it's a bad day and then he moves forward. That's been just incredible for me to see how he takes this. But it's really hard. He's had multiple really life-threatening moments over the last year, and he's just still very much in the thick of it. So he's okay.
How do you deal with that together as a couple, or how can you support in that time?
We talk a lot, and I think a trick for me, this is something I'm not very good at, but trying to get better. Like he is so in touch with emotions and reading other people. So if I'm struggling with something, he can see it immediately. Like he can read what I'm thinking most of the time. So he always asks like, what's wrong today, or what's on your mind? And I've started to ask him a bit more now in general, because I haven't seen him in almost 3 months. So I'm looking forward to seeing him very soon, actually tonight. Very excited.
Perfect then.
But that's the thing, is on FaceTime, it's great to have FaceTime, but it's also to take one more step in a relationship to say like, hey, what's on your mind? And I'm not just asking like cutesy, like, oh, what are you thinking? But actually, what's on your mind? What are you going through now? And let's talk. And he doesn't want to bring me down, so he doesn't always. And so I have to take another step and push it one more time. And then he opens up, and it's like, it's better when you can share.
All right. It's a process. Good that he has you by your side and that you will see him tonight. As you were never shy speaking about mental health, did this accident affect the way how you look onto professional skiing in some way for you?
I mean, I've always understood that skiing there's a lot of risk involved. And we don't see life-threatening accidents on a daily basis. So when you are the athlete and you train for this and our instincts tell us to ski faster and every day we explore the limits of it, you're not thinking in every moment that this is potentially life-threatening. If I make the wrong if I make the wrong move at the really wrong time, then like this could be really, really bad. And it's important that we're not always thinking that. But I tend to be very aware of the risks in general. Like I don't like to be in pain. I don't know anyone who does, but like I'm sensitive to pain. I don't want to feel pain. There's just certain kind of pains that are tolerable, and then like acute injury, bone injuries, that kind of pain is just blech, like I don't like it. So I really prepare myself to avoid being in really, really extra risky situations. And so when I watch him ski and crash like that, I was just like, yeah, I mean, you're sort of living what would be one of your worst nightmares. And I think both he and I were having nightmares about this exact moment for months after he crashed. And it just becomes part of something that's ingrained into your mind, and it's hard to sort of switch on and off your concern for it. And like for me to know what's there and then to have to go do it myself and like, oof, okay, time to focus.
Time to focus on you, and you did that in a phenomenal way, like winning at your comeback in Aura. Ted Ligety said, like, Mikaela never started a race that she doesn't think she can win. So if she is ready to race, that means she's ready to win. Would you agree?
This was such a funny comment. This is one that
I
I
really
did
like
hear
that.
this one. Yeah. First of all, it's like, I consider that to be super flattering. But when I heard him say that afterwards, I was like, Ted, because the thing is, you never know that you can win a race. So when I start a race, I'm like nervous and I don't know that I'm going to win. But he's right that I was prepared to ski my best, and then anything is possible. So he was actually spot on in that way. But I was like, well, don't make people think that it's easy. Like, it's definitely not easy, and it's kind of painful still. And like, oh my gosh. But yeah, but I heard him say that and it just made me smile. I was like, well, he does kind of get me. Like, I'm not going to start a race that I'm just going to be limping down the course. That's for sure.
A pretty good comment. So has it always been skiing for you, or what is it that you can find on the slopes that you can find anywhere else?
Yeah, I don't know. It's like this unique feeling that you don't get. It's a combination of like the noise, the loudest place in the world, but you're able to make it quiet. Like if you imagine standing in the middle of a really, really busy train station and there's just chaos everywhere. And then in your own world, you're protected from it and you're peaceful. It's almost like you're floating. And that's a feeling that I get from skiing that I haven't been able to get everywhere else. Like everywhere else that's noisy is just noisy. And in skiing, I can block out the noise. Maybe that's something I love about it. But yeah, I always considered myself a ski racer. I never decided. I just was. I think I was just born with that mentality, maybe. I don't know.
Sounds just wonderful.
Yeah.
I think we can leave it like that.
Yeah, leave it. Stop talking, Mikaela. Got it.
Would you say your love to the sport grows with your success in some way?
No.
No. Okay.
No, I have to actually fight for it's like a healthy marriage. I have to like fight to keep my passion and my love for the sport, because the more successful I get, the more pressure there is, the harder it is to win, because for many, many reasons, but also because the whole world is watching and learning from what you're doing. So they have a roadmap, but you don't. You have to be more innovative. You have to be a stronger communicator with your team to help express your needs and how everything, be really on top of everything you have to do to stay on top, to keep winning. So every time you win, it gets harder to win. And it gets also more people expect it. And those expectations are really difficult to grapple with. And like, I try to ignore expectations, but it's not always possible. So I would not say it gets easier or more fun or more passionate. It just gets a little bit complicated and cloudy.
Okay, interesting.
So winning is great. We love it.
Would you say you can never get used to winning then?
Yeah, no, because every single time, at least for me, every time I win is like, oh my gosh, I can't believe it happened. Like, I can't believe it happened again. Oh, this is so great. And, you know, it can happen 90 something times or 100 or whatever. And it's still like, oh shit. Like, wow, that was a rush.
Can you remember on every single victory? It's not possible, I guess.
No, but I mean, if I was to watch the videos, I would have things that come back. Like, and it was not what you would expect. It would be like, oh, I remember at this race, I actually saw my coach standing on the side while I was racing. And that triggered me to try to ski faster because I was like, oh, they're watching, like, do better. Or this race, I heard the commentator say something and I thought that they said I was 5/10 behind. So I pushed harder and I was actually 5/10 ahead. And that was a race that I won by 1.5 seconds. So I'm like, oh, so those are little moments that, that might stand out. Also with the kind of failure races, or if I crashed or didn't, you know.
At some point you should really write down all these
Yes.
Small memories.
We've dabbled with the idea of a book.
Yeah. I would buy it. So
great.
Let's go.
We're doing it. Writing a book.
Amazing. So closing last season with another slalom globe in Saalbach, which will be the venue for this year's World Championships. A pretty good place to return then for you.
Yeah, it's, you know, I was so happy to be able to return and race for the end of the season, in particular because we could go to Saalbach and I could experience the slopes. And, you know, it's different to look at a slope than it is to ski on it. So getting a chance to actually ski down the slalom was really important. I could get a feeling for the character. Yeah, and there's spectacular slopes, actually, like interesting. There's terrain, there's pitches, there's flats, there's just a little bit of everything. And you enter the finish with this enormous crowd, and the way that the finish area is kind of set up, the noise, just, it's like kind of a dream for an athlete to enter the finish like that, where it's just echoing. And that's, you know, you come into the finish of World Championships, like that's your moment. And whether it's good or bad, like that's your moment. So you've got to soak it in. And that's, I think, a good setup to be able to do that.
How do you deal with that pressure that, you know, that's the moment? Like at a World Championship, it's for sure kind of another story than racing in a World Cup.
Yeah, it is and it isn't. It's like we've been racing the World Cup for several months leading up to World Champs. So then we take this sort of break from World Cup, race World Championships, but then it's all the same people that you see. It's the same kind of like look and feel. You know, you've got the fencing lining the slope, you have the crowds, but then there's a little bit extra attention here and there, like a little bit of different organization. So yes, it's different than a World Cup for sure. But at the end of the day, when you're standing in the start, well, for me, I wouldn't advise this for most people. Most people are like, oh, self-affirmations. But when I'm standing in the start, I'm like, don't fuck it up.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's just kind of, that has become a little bit of my self-affirmation. It's like,
good then.
All right, let's just not mess up. And I'm not thinking about messing up. I'm thinking about all the right things I'm supposed to do. So it just transforms that way. So it's this self-deprecation for me becomes like a self-affirmation. It doesn't make any sense. As long as it works. I wouldn't advise that. It's a little confusing, but we're an overthinker, so.
Perfect then. So this will be your 7th World Championships. The 6 previous, you always won a gold medal. Is that something that put a bit pressure on you or makes it easier?
Probably. Yeah. I'm currently, I don't know. I don't feel the pressure about that right now. I'm sure at some point it'll cross my mind more seriously, but yeah, there's multiple sides to it. It's like, oh, I've got to keep the streak going. But at the same time, like, I never really cared about that. And now I've won a gold at every 6. So like, Like it's got to end at some point, and like that was successful. Like let's call that a success. And then, you know, it's sort of like I'm just proud that that can be one of the statistics of my accomplishments. It's very cool, but I guess it doesn't matter to me personally, so maybe I won't feel pressure. Maybe I will. It depends. Every season is different. My vibe is different. Sometimes I really care what people think. Sometimes I don't. I hope that this season I don't care about expectations, but if it's one of those seasons where I do, then I will certainly be feeling pressure at World Champs.
Good approach for the new season.
We'll see.
Don't care that much about other ones.
Let's
Don't overthink it.
Okay, thank you.
Good. So as you're redefining this sport, like just if you could, what are your wishes for the future of skiing? Tough question.
Yeah. No, I feel like skiing is at a little bit of a crossroads, and it has been for the last few seasons at least. On this crossroads of kind of deciding how we want to really exist in the world, and with a fan base, how to connect with the fan base better and more globally, especially in the US, that the connection is not nearly as strong as I would like to see it. So, you know, one of my goals or visions for the future of skiing is to be more connected with the fan base in the US, and hopefully increasing that. And working more towards making snow sports, and not even just limited to skiing, but like being part of making snow sports more accessible and something that more people want to do globally. And then like at the same time, what do we really have to do to make skiing more sustainable? Because we absolutely rely on the environment for our existence. So how do we then play into that and help like exist longer and become more sustainable? And that's, I wouldn't say that we have the answers to that yet. I definitely would not. I would say that we have quite a ways to go in order to be healthily impacting
a lot
our world.
To do for the future.
Yeah.
What are your wishes for the next season? The personal ones.
I mean, probably the number one thing is just that my family and closest people, or people closest to me, are healthy and happy. This last year there was a lot of injury and a lot of scary moments. So I would hope to go through a year where there's a little bit less scary moments and a little bit more just joy.
All right.
Yeah.
Then let's focus on a healthy new season with a lot of amazing memories. Thank you so much for all you're doing with the sport.
Thank you.
So that's it from Mikaela Shiffrin, our today's podcast guest. We can't wait for the FIS Ski World Championships 2025 at Skizirkus Saalbach about to start. Really hope to see you there, guys.